Taking a very short detour away from working on the Shin Megami Tensei 5 review, I've been kindly offered a code by New Star Games for the Switch version of their 2020 mobile football title, Retro Bowl. Yes, I'm talking about a football game, because I very much seem like the kind of person that would be interested in it. I'm fully aware as well that I am not the most athletic man in the world. The best I do is some bed exercises before I go to sleep, and even that's not done every day. But the main thing that caught my attention with Retro Bowl was that it looked very similar to one of my favorite sports games, Tecmo Bowl.
I unfortunately rarely get a chance to watch football, not just because it's more difficult to do so in the UK, which is where I live, and watching the Super Bowl meant staying up until 3 AM on a school night to see the full thing, but I don't really approve of charging people to witness a bunch of grown men ram into each other for 3 hours per game. Sure, it may not be the most expensive, but it's the principle of it all that bugs me. My football experience usually comes from the video games, though personally I really don't care about the more realistic portrayals like the Madden series. I'm all for the over-the-top types of football games, with some of the best examples being NFL Arcade for the Xbox 360, and of course Tecmo Bowl for the NES, which I still think anybody can jump in and have fun with, even if you aren't a fan of football, thanks to its simple but effective gameplay. Retro Bowl seemed to be heavily inspired by Tecmo Bowl, and when looking at the two back-to-back, you can definitely see it. As I mentioned before, this was originally a mobile phone release all the way back in 2020, but the Switch version has only just come out at the time of this video. That did make me a little skeptical at first, seeing how other mobile games didn't translate the best on Switch, but there were some pretty positive reviews about Retro Bowl based on its initial release, so I thought I'd give the Switch port the benefit of the doubt. An updated, retooled version of Tecmo Bowl sounded awesome, but what exactly do we have here? Well, to start with, let's talk about the actual football gameplay. Firstly, the graphics look very close to Tecmo Bowl's, whilst giving them a style of their own, with camera zooms and a replay option, where you can fast forward or rewind them. There's a quick tutorial to show you the basics of passing the ball to another teammate, or just running away with it to try and get within 10 yards of the field for another first down, before you reach your 4th down and either have to make one last valid attempt, or just punt the ball. That and taking the ball to your opponent's side of the field is the bare basics of football, and thankfully that's all you need to know in Retro Bowl. You don't need to worry about any players crying foul or having a chat with the referee or anything similar. You can be as chaotic as you want. Retro Bowl does actually support the NES and Super Nintendo controllers that are compatible for Switch, so if you want to make it feel more like old school Tecmo Bowl, then that's one way of doing it. But the Joy-Cons and Pro Controller work just as well. Not only can each player move in any direction, but passing also has a cursor pop up to show you the trajectory of the ball, where your teammates can then run over and catch it. Passing was something that was not always the most efficient in Tecmo Bowl, since you had to keep pressing the A button to change who you wanted to throw the ball to, and if there happened to be someone on the opposing side right next to them, that was pretty much a guaranteed interception on their end, which did get kind of annoying. Retro Bowl's way of passing adds a fair bit more strategy, so you could directly throw the ball towards your teammate, but you could also throw it a little to the side to try and shake off anybody blocking your way. You can do bullet throws as well to pass the ball faster at a shorter trajectory, but 9 times out of 10 I find that my teammate doesn't catch it and waste it down, making bullet throws sorta useless. Retro Bowl does additionally allow you to juke and catch your opponent off guard, though personally I didn't really find it that useful. But diving was a pretty nifty mechanic to make up for it. All you do is just press the A button at any point and you can dive to just barely make it to the first down line or the end zone. Even the quarterback can choose to scramble in the middle of passing if things don't look good for you. So there's more going on when you're out in the field than in something like Tecmo Bowl, and the controls are tighter on top of that. Sadly, there is a but to all of this, and I'm afraid to say it's a pretty big one, but there are no plays whatsoever for you to decide. You see, Tecmo Bowl gave you less than a handful of different plays to set up your team's formations and how they were going to move and act, which was very limited, but that almost created a rock paper scissors mechanic that was basic, but added plenty of strategy to the gameplay. What plays your opponents were going to do you wouldn't know, but that was part of the fun, getting into their minds and trying to be one step ahead of them. The closest you get to having plays are audibles, but not only are you given very few to use before they reset in the next half of a game, with the only way to acquire more being to have a better quarterback, you also have no idea where the players are going to move until you've already activated an audible, which is kinda counterproductive. That's unfortunately not the only problem I have with Retro Bowl, however. As we come to the other half of the package, team management. Everyone in your team has different stats to look out for, and you have to frequently check who are the best ones to bring to the next game, while additionally taking into account their moods and morale, trading anybody that you feel isn't pulling their weight and getting a new member later. More players with low morale, moods, and stats stats will drastically let the team down, so spending in-game currency on rehab abilities to make them happier, improving the stadiums to gather more fans,
or training programs to give each member more experience points after every game plays a big role in ensuring that you win.
This is something I wouldn't mind so much if I wasn't given paltry amounts of currency to start with, even after winning some games. And the more games you do play, the worse the condition of your players, meaning you also have to make sure that they get plenty of rest. The state of your team will especially affect the match when the ball goes to your opponents, and you're only told what's going on via text. This is a feature I really do not like about Retro Bowl, because it takes away control from you and makes you rely on your team's stats to win, which if you look at the pre-match screen, can be quite a huge difference to the opponent sometimes. And the 2 timeouts you also get for each half doesn't help matters much. Because of that, more often than not, my team can't stop the opponents from getting a touchdown completely out of my power, and that's very irritating.
Hell, sometimes your rivals can get a touchdown just as the game starts and you can't do anything about it. How's that fair?
Though that's when it hit me that Retro Bowl doesn't want to so much be an expanded Tecmo Bowl game, but instead a management simulator. Don't get me wrong, game developers are perfectly okay making whatever kinds of games they want, but if you're going to create something that's clearly inspired by another property, to the point that it borrows a similar name, look, and feel, I'm gonna compare it to that thing it's inspired by. Not to mention, there's no multiplayer in Retro Bowl. As of right now, it is a strictly single-player experience, which to me could have saved this game a hell of a lot if I was able to compete with others. Multiplayer's been around since football games began, but if you can't challenge your friends to competitive matches once the single player stuff is over, then what else have you got after that? Now, if the management aspect does sound appealing to you and you want to coach your favorite teams, then by all means go for it. You might really enjoy it, and there's nothing all that wrong with what it is as opposed to what it isn't. But if you were hoping for a more modern take to the Tecmo Bowl style of gameplay, then I honestly don't think this is the game for you.
As its own thing, Retro Bowl does have its share of fun occasionally. The games themselves are very quick and you can adjust the time limit to your liking, and watching your team grow does provide some satisfaction. However, to me, the management portion of the gameplay wasn't really necessary, or at the very least we could have an arcade mode or something that lets me skip all of that. I'm not the biggest fan of management simulators anyway, so I understand this is more of a personal issue, but I suppose to its credit, Retro Bowls is simple enough to understand. Even without it though, stuff like not controlling defense, the lack of multiplayer, and no plays to call stop me from fully praising this game.
It is decently priced even without the discount, so you won't be losing much if you want to give it a shot. And hey, with this year's Super Bowl coming very soon, maybe Retro Bowl will put you in the mood for it. Just know what you're getting into beforehand.
Still, if you're looking for something to play in short bursts, or you want to spend long sessions going through seasons of football games with your best teams, it's good enough. Not great, but good enough. I do apologize to New Star Games for not getting into Retro Bowl as much as I wanted to, but I am very grateful for the review code given to me, and I wish them the best of luck with any future games. Well, with that short review done, I'm gonna go carry on with the Shin Megami Tensei 5 video, which I hope you all are looking forward to, so see you then, and go play some football! New Star Games for their... New Star Games to look at their... because I very much look like the kind of person that would be interested in it. Fudge! Forgot my line. Now with that very short review done, I'm gonna go... gonna do something.